Welcome, everyone. This is Cynthia Concordia from Dream to Rise. And I'm so fortunate to have our guest speaker. She is the word whisperer. She is a three-time number one rated radio morning show host, podcast host, media trainer, keynote speaker, and professional MC, Amazon number one best-selling author, and magazine contributor. She has spoken to global audiences and has voiced written copy for commercials and marketing pieces nationwide. She is the founder of Speaking with Sher, a communication strategy and consultation service using customized techniques to connect your voice and message to your ideal audience and for greater impact. She has created the messaging to launch celebrity cosmetic lines. Oh, nice. And has narrated number one best-selling books. Without further ado, I'm so excited to have our guest speaker, Miss Sheral DeVaugh. Sheral, did I
Oh my,
pronounce your name or last
it's
name
perfect.
correctly?
It's perfect. And I may have to hire you to go ahead and do, I'm going to need entrance music after that. It just I'm sitting back going, wow, that gal sounds impressive. And then I went, is that me? I guess it is. So thank you so much for having me here today.
I'm very honored to have you, Sheryl. Imagine the one who's already there, top there, but
Oh,
then,
no.
but then, who has the time to really spend with me and share your story with us here in the Dream to Rise. I'm very fortunate to have you, Sheryl, and I'm
Oh,
glad after several, isn't it several schedules
we had a
finally, we
couple
were
of
able to make it.
we did. We had a couple of scheduling conflicts, and I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh my goodness, I hope we can connect. And we're supposed to be connecting. I'm glad that we could finally make it happen. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are very excited to listen and to hear your story, and then see how can this make an impact to them, especially those who have gone through the same as what
Yeah.
you have gone through. So let us start. Most of the time, I usually ask the guest speakers their story because that's the main purpose of this podcast.
Yes.
A lot of people are just waiting for our stories to be heard because I'm sure at one point in time they have also experienced that what you have gone through. Not everything, but probably a segment of your journey. So could you tell us something about yourself that brought you to where you are right now, Sheryl?
Well, it started, and it started as a little kid. Honestly,
Mhm.
I grew up in a family in rural southern Minnesota where women and girls weren't exactly thought of particularly positively. We were probably somewhere underneath the family dog. And, our purpose was to cook meals for the men and have babies and just be quiet and stay out of the way. And I didn't get that memo apparently when I was born. I was, little mouthy Sheryl and such, and you can imagine that caused quite a bit of an uproar within my family and where I was growing up in the little bitty community that I was growing up in. So I spent a lot of time pretty much in solitary confinement in my room. And I had an old AM radio. I'm dating myself a little bit. AM radio. I finally got the FM, and I would spend a good majority of my time listening to Wolfman Jack. If for those that are younger, you can Google him. He was the disc jockey in the movie American Graffiti, and the other one was Casey Kasem, who was the original America's Top 40 before Ryan Seacrest was even a glimmer in his
Oh.
mama's eye.
Uh-huh.
He also was the original voice of Shaggy in the Scooby Doo cartoons.
Oh.
So I would get to hear Casey all weekend long between, Scooby-Doo and America's, American Top 40. They became almost my best friends and my inspiration because they could speak to a person and make them feel like they were speaking just solely to
Mhm.
you,
Yes.
that connection. And so from a very early age, I decided I wanted to be Wolfman and Casey Kasem. Unfortunately, when I was going through those years, women in radio or in any media position like that were treated sort of as a sidekick. We were meant to be, the news girl, the giggle box, the cute object of affection. There wasn't exactly the Me Too movement back then. And so there were a lot of obstacles that I had to overcome in getting out of the small town, out of that family, and working my way to a point where I could show what I was capable of, to a point where my my first radio show on the commercial side of radio. I'd done some things with public radio and NPR,
Mhm.
but my first foray into an actual commercial radio station, I made up a story that I had experienced, and I gave the phone number of family and friends as references and gave them a script to use in case someone were to
Okay.
contact them and see, well, how'd she do? Not understanding how the industry works. It didn't matter. It worked. It was a part-time overnight at a country station, and I didn't even listen to country music at the time. So I spent, it's what I call the weekend of mama, my pickup truck, my old dog, and getting caught in the rain. It was a weekend
Oh.
of country and Western music where I just listened to the music nonstop to get an idea. About 6 months into that, the woman who was the co-host for the morning show, and it was the number one morning show in town, she left to take a position somewhere else. And so they had an opening. I auditioned along with several others for the position. And at the ripe old age of 25, I landed the number one morning show. I
Wow.
was excited and thrilled. What I did not understand was that they weren't hiring me to showcase my talent. I was supposed to make the co-host look good. And
Oh.
again, I come from that age where women, you go over here and you're just there to support the men and be cute and funny and just quiet. You're just there to support. That didn't go over very well for me. And I struggled and I fought with it. And I went through a lot of harassment,
Oh
discrimination.
my.
And at one point, the former morning show co-host decided she wanted to come back. And so she was actually complicit in a campaign to get me to quit. I wouldn't quit. They finally had to fire me.
Oh, I
And when
was
they,
about to ask if you quit. So you
nope,
stayed.
no, I stayed because I was in a year long non compete clause within a 75-mile radius. And my husband is military. He was active duty at that time. I couldn't have gone anywhere else. So I thought to myself, here's my dream of getting into the industry and finally achieving my goals, and it's being taken away. How do you get around this? What am I going to do?
Mhm.
There's I talk about this in my book. I've got a book called The Frog in Your Throat, and it goes through this whole story. But there are a couple of different types of people. There are the people I call fish, that are folks in search of help, swimming around in their little barrel until a stork, what I call a situational taker of rational knowledge, comes along. And that stork, that obstacle, that hurdle in your life will come along and it will swallow you whole if you're not careful.
Yes.
So if you're swimming around as a fish, waiting for someone else to come along, you're going to be swallowed up by life's hurdles. Or you could choose to be a frog. folks refusing, others garbage. And sometimes that garbage is even within ourselves. But in this particular case, it was the garbage of some very outdated ideas about women's place within the industry. I made them fire me because I was buying time for myself. When they finally called me in, I stayed calm enough. I mean, I was boiling inside, and a young girl, not with a lot of experience, I had the wherewithal to stay calm enough where they sat back and told me that I had zero talent. I would should never be in the radio industry. These are the same people that
My.
had hired me,
Oh my.
and that I just needed to go home, have some babies, and maybe pick up a joke book so that I could learn a little bit of comedic humor. I sat there and gritted my teeth and I agreed. You're probably right, but unfortunately, this is something that I've always loved, and I can't leave the area. But since I'm absolutely no talent and of no threat, would it be possible for me to go to maybe one of the farm stations in the area that had a couple hundred listeners, maybe giving the daily weather and farm reports? I said that way I could just still feel like I'm doing something, and it's obviously no threat to you. I could hone my craft a little bit better and still feel like I'm doing something. Well, they giggled and laughed and said, well, yeah, you could go to one of the farm stations. That's not a problem. So I had them put the cancellation of my non-compete clause in writing before I left, that they
Mhm.
had agreed to waive that so that I could go to work at another station within a 75-mile radius. And they were so kind. My old morning show partner had even packed my box and left it on my desk for me to send me on my way. 3 months later, I took that waiver for my non-compete clause, went to a radio station across the way, and proceeded to beat that station by double digits for the first time in 20 years. So they weren't very pleased that they gave me that non compete and they fired me. And then I went to another station and beat them with it. It's
Uh-huh.
it comes down to even the worst hurdle can can be your greatest gift if you allow it to be.
Exactly. And then you know what? When you mentioned about that, uh, it it served you as a challenge. It challenged you more rather than you quitting or give up. Because the more you that's one thing that I like, no? If we experience hurdles, take it as a challenge and then move forward, and then how use it as a learning experience, and then improve,
Yeah.
apply what you've learned and improve. And you did it very well, my dear. Imagine you're not the type, that type of situation wherein you're already angry,
Oh,
you're
yeah. I
furious,
was
you're
so
so mad,
angry I was
but you
crying, but
made it in such a way that, well, I could still be supporting you, I could be of help, and you were willing to learn by saying,
yeah.
could you send me to another radio station, even it's kind of far, but that's
they
a
they
nice thing.
never they never in their wildest dreams expected that I would go to any radio station. They figured no one would touch me, but if I did go, they thought it was going to be in the outskirts of
Uh-huh.
town with no listeners, no
Uh-huh.
anything. Because I had, even when they brought me in to fire me, I thought at the very least, put me back in a part-time position or a different position, put me in maybe another department in promotions or what have you. They did they didn't give me any options. The only thing they wanted to do was completely crush my spirit and degrade me one final time. And if you can see on this book cover, Cynthia,
Yeah.
I chose to
Uh-huh.
be a frog. If you know, it's the old cartoon, The Frog and the Stork.
Uh-huh.
And that frog is being swallowed by that stork at the time. But instead of a fish going down whole, that folks in search of help, he's a frog. He's refusing that garbage. he's holding on. He's choking that
Mhm,
stork, preventing him from swallowing him whole. He doesn't give up. And
mhm.
in that moment is when I learned how to be a frog. I didn't give up, and I refused that, and then took it somewhere. There will always be somebody that will see what's inside of you if you just let them have that chance. And that's what the competing radio station did for me. It was it made it worthwhile, and it opened the door for other women in that market. And since then, I've had the ability and the humbling gift of being able to influence other women within the industry and continue as a media trainer to train those who want to step into their light and have their voice be heard.
See, that's the nice thing about it, because you've come from that position, that's that state wherein you were trying yourself to meet or manifest what you want to manifest in life. Now you're giving others the opportunity to grow as well.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty of that. That's why you're here, still doing what you're doing, being
absolutely.
blessed with so many things, because you are a blessing to other people.
Thank you.
That's nice. I love it. So when you moved to that station, uh everything flourished a lot.
It did, and it didn't.
Oh, why?
And that's the funniest part is I went over to this other station, and we went to number one,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a lot of resentment within the community, and there was a lot of resentment within that particular, pardon me, that radio company that I went to, because here comes this young gal
Oh.
who is upending everything. The woman that had been doing the morning show that I came in to take over, she was moved to another station. That wasn't my decision. I had nothing to do with that. But she was very upset by it. And there were several others that were upset that they thought they were being skipped over for their opportunity. And who was this gal, this unproven talent, this young kid, this woman? Who does she think she is coming in?
Mm.
And so I had to fight it all over again. But fortunately, I had a program director who was a phenomenal mentor and advisor, who could see what was going on. The gentleman that owned that particular radio complex there was very he had forward vision as well. And I had enough people around me that took that chance, and I wasn't going to let them down. I wasn't going to let myself down. We got to the top, and then my husband is military, and we were transferred. And so suddenly everything that I had and everything that defined me was ripped away. And we moved out of state, and I had to start from scratch again. And this time with a young baby. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't even know who I was at the time. And there was um, severe depression. There was some drug and alcohol abuse that I had to overcome. And there was the end of my marriage that resulted. I had to figure I could not be a good mother nor a good wife until I was good to myself. I had to figure out who I was. And so we took a little bit of a we were divorced for 3.5 years, and I say it's the time that the band broke up. We put the band back together. I remarried the
With the
same
same
man.
person? The same guy?
Yeah, after three and
Oh.
a half years, we remarried. We've been married over 30 years now, and we have a second daughter. Both they're
Mm.
full sisters, one from each time we've been married. So I like to jokingly say we put the band back together, and then we added a keyboardist.
Uh-huh.
But you're not going to be you're not going to be good to yourself, and you're not going to be able to help anyone else until you figure out who you are and learn how to be good to you, how to find your voice. And it's a never ending process, because your voice is going to change over the course of time, and you will have those moments where you question yourself, you lose your identity, you don't know what you stand for. It's okay to take that step back and figure out who you are and how best to amplify that voice. Never feel guilty for taking care of you, because how do you pour from an empty cup? You
Exactly.
have to fill your own cup first before you can pour into someone else. And that was one of the lessons I had to learn, and learn it the hard way.
Yeah, it's hard. Well, getting through divorce, it was hard, and especially your husband was with the military, and you needed support. He was not there, and that was probably one of the reasons why, oh my, will I be able to handle this and so on. And I agree with you. You won't be able to help others if you have not discovered who you really are. You need to love yourself. You need to accept yourself. The what you have gone through, the alcohol and so on, those are just band-aids, right? It's
Exactly.
just
Well,
for
it's a way,
temporary.
it's like social media or gaming or what have you. They're all just things to detract, so you
Uh-huh.
don't have to think about what's happening presently in your life. They're just all distractions.
Mhm.
And when it's fine to, to play a game. It's fine to check social media. There's nothing wrong with those that want to take sip a cocktail with a friend. I don't have an issue with any of those things. But when you start using and abusing them in order to escape
Mhm.
where you're at, you never truly escape.
Exactly.
It's just a deeper, darker prison cell is what it is.
It will
And
just numb
so
you during that time. It's numbing you only.
it is. It's numbing you, but it isn't even.
Mhm.
Because you still feel it, and it takes more and more to put it away, and in the process you're harming the people that you care the most about. And so you have to learn to overcome, leap your own hurdle in life. And there are ways to do that. There are things that I talk about within the book, but you can't help somebody, and you can't do it until you build that foundation for yourself.
Exactly. And how is it now? Now, trying to ask about your relationship. I'm kind of curious. How is it now the second time around?
Well, I decided to keep him this time around. We were married for 6.5 years the first time, and we have been married a little over 33 years total. So that should tell you how we are this time.
Yes.
It's been a long, what, 20, oh my goodness, I guess it's been an extra 25 years now. So things, I'm not going to lie, it's work every day. It's a struggle. There are days with, I think every spouse can say, you just want to look at the other person, and you want to be this frog wringing the stork's neck, right? But it's worth it.
It's
It's
worth
worth
it.
it. It
And
is. And the relationship is much stronger since I've figured out how to use my voice again and use it the right way.
yes. And most of the time, I was just um preparing something for my podcast. We talked about ego, and
Mhm.
that's usually the major um, problem in every relationship, the ego, the pride, and that destroys any relationship, whether marriage or with your sisters, or with your siblings, with your family or friends. If we try to accept who we are, just like what you've mentioned, and our strengths and our weaknesses, and admit those weaknesses and work things out to improve ourselves, I think everything will work out well. And you're willing to learn and willing to grow with that person, then it makes it worth really
You
staying within that relationship.
you touched on such an important thing when you talked about ego, Cynthia. It's not even just in a personal setting, but professionally. It's one of the first things that I teach my clients that I coach and consult, that It's not about you. You're you're the subject, but not the message.
Mhm.
Stop thinking about what's in it for me or how would I do it. Start thinking about the person that you're connecting to, whether you're speaking on a stage, whether a podcast like you're doing, an article, your emails, your website. It's not about you, it's about them. And think about that other person that you're serving. Get rid of the ego. That ego is a huge obstacle, that big hurdle in your path. It becomes your own personal stork.
Yes.
So put yourself aside. You're the subject, but you're not the message. And it's not about you, it's about
Mhm.
them.
And that's why we're here. I got this quote. I read this quote. Leadership, great leaders is not all about your success, the money, the status, your your what's this, the power.
Mhm.
It's how you made other people feel.
Yeah.
H- how are you helping them be the best version of themselves so they may live the life they love? And for me, that's success.
It
That's
is.
success. It's not about the money that you gain. It's not about the status. It's what are you able to share so others may
Yeah. People may
find
not
joy
even
and fulfillment.
people may not remember all of the details of the conversation you had or the particulars of where you were and what you were doing, but they'll remember how you made them feel
Yes.
always.
Mhm. Always, always. Wow, I like this discussion.
I
we
do
we
too.
touched we touched the business side, relationships, and then you as your message to the world. How can you make an impact? I this is what I want in this podcast really. How can you make an impact to the world and make a difference? I love it. So now you've mentioned your book, the
Yes.
the frog in your throat. Are you planning to have another book? But I would love to uh, get
Yes.
that. I will make sure, and I hope the listeners will be able to get hold of that copy because it really covers, it touches everything from your struggles and what you have become right now.
Yeah.
It's not about the result, right? It's about the journey, what we have learned throughout the journey and what we
Correct.
have become. That's the best gift that we can get from our life.
Yeah. No, I'll make sure that you've got a copy of the book. But yeah, the frog in your throat. If someone is looking for it, you can either get an autographed, a signed
Uh-huh.
copy from thefroginyourthroat.com. It's also on Amazon in both paperback or on Kindle. And I'm in the process of recording it for Audible. But you
Uh-huh.
asked about a second book, and there is a second book coming out
Yes.
that'll be coming out in 2024. And it one of my hobbies is I race kayaks. I do endurance kayak races.
Oh.
I've done the Missouri River 340 twice now. It is
Mhm.
the world's longest nonstop canoe and kayak race in the world. And
Mhm.
I've done it twice now, 340 miles across the state of Missouri from Kansas City to St.
Wow.
Louis, 340 miles in 86 hours or less. Okay.
Wow.
Whatever.
So
And
that means see, what you're doing is you're really taking care of yourself, being active, health
well, I
and
wasn't even
well-being.
just doing it for me, but I needed to prove to myself, Cynthia, I'm mid 50s. We'll leave it at that. I am mid 50s and I have some autoimmune issues and a couple of, physical health issues. I wanted to do this to prove to myself that I could
Mhm.
and to inspire my children that it doesn't matter what your circumstances, if you could always find a way
Mhm.
to again get over those hurdles.
Yeah.
And in this case it was a lot of physical challenges, but it's also mental. and emotional challenges. The you need to be mentally tough in
Mm.
order to complete this race. I've done this twice now. I'll do it again this coming year. But the book is going to be what I learned along the journey, along that path, those 340 miles. And the title currently, it's still a work in progress, is going to be There's More in the Tank Than You Think. And
That's more.
it will be, it's not here yet. I'm writing it. There's more in the tank than you think.
Ah, uh-huh.
And it will,
Nice.
there are so many life lessons that I learned doing that race, things that I learned about myself, things that I learned about others, that it applies to life all the way through. And so I will be putting that one together here this coming year and
Oh,
releasing that. But first I'll get The Frog in Your Throat up on Audible and get that squared away. And that should be coming within the next month or two. But the book is already there.
oh, that's great. So are these your goals for the next 12 months to make your the frog book, the frog book,
It is the
audible?
frog book. It is the frog book. That's good. That's easier. I like that. I think I'll just stick with that. It's the frog book. Of course.
Make so you'll add that as a make it audible, and I'm
Yes.
sure you'll be the one doing it as well.
I am. I am. I'm
Mhm.
voicing it. I've voiced some other books for other best-selling authors. Tina Brandau, Standing Strong was the last one I did, and it's an amazingly powerful story. And I was very honored and touched to play a small part in
Uh-huh.
that story. But yes, I'll be recording my own with The
That's
Frog in Your
nice.
Throat.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. But that should be coming before the end of the year. That should be up and squared away.
Oh,
Goals for next year. We'll be doing more of the speaker mastery boot camps because I believe everyone has that important story to tell, and that their voice deserves to be heard. So my business mentor and associate, my close friend Gary Barnes, he and I will be going to several cities within the United States. We've got another one coming up in Denver next, but through different cities throughout the United States, not only teaching attendees how to speak professionally on a stage, but how to create a business with it or to use it as a tool to enhance their business. So there'll be more of those. I'll be speaking on more stages myself, doing a lot of traveling with it. I've got more courses and such that are coming out that I'll be putting out in order to help others find their voice and get their message, create that perfect connection. And let's see, yeah, the book. My goodness, yeah, there's a lot that's going on. I just
yes. A lot of things going
it's
on.
there are a lot thinking about there are a lot of things going on. It doesn't feel like work. It just feels like, okay, whom am I going to have the privilege of meeting next? And that's what it turns into, is who who's going to touch me next and inspire me and send me off on the next direction, and in return, how can I do the same for them?
See, that's the main reason why I value connection, human connection, because most of the time we focus on our binoculars. No, we always look at our binoculars, focusing on what we want to focus, not realizing, hey, there are still people around us who who are experiencing different challenges. We
Yeah.
always complain, why me? Why me? Why do I have to experience this? But when we get in touch with other people, we learn so much from each one of them, and
And I
realizing
yeah,
that, hey, my pain, my hurdles, my struggles, it's not even a fraction of their struggles. And that's when you become more grateful and be more thankful for the life you have.
I think that's one of the big reasons why I'm most excited next year to be launching that second podcast. We spoke about it a little bit earlier, just off mic, but it's the power of a 5-minute conversation. And that'll be the second podcast. The first, the podcast I've got going on right now was for fun for me. Cocktails and conspiracies, where, Bigfoot, bourbon, UFOs, you and me, that sort of a thing. But the second podcast is so near and dear to my heart because it embraces everything that you and I have been speaking about today. That power of a 5-minute conversation. It's where you're sitting next to someone in a diner or standing in line at the grocery store, and you strike up those conversations, and you will walk away and not even think anything of it. But something that you said within that conversation has the power to change a mood, to change a mind, change a direction, change a life, save a life. And you don't even realize it at the time, but you're making such an impact with that lightning strike that comes in just a simple throwaway conversation. And so the power of a 5-minute conversation will bring on guests telling their stories. Obviously, the podcast isn't only going to be 5 minutes, but within that, you'll be able to find something within a 5-minute segment that will have the power to do all of those things that I just laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this is going to be such an important project to me and so near and dear to my heart, to share those stories, to touch just one person to make that difference. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've got coming up in the next 12 months.
Oh my, that's a wonderful project that you'll be pursuing. And we have the same vision and mission.
Yes.
I think a lot of people are just waiting for our stories and making an impact on their lives, on others' lives. So, what do you think would be the major roadblock for you to achieve it? You have a lot of things on your plate, my dear.
It's the standard hurdles. Maybe you're like me on this, where it doesn't matter how much experience you have or success beforehand. There's always that self-doubt that, is anybody even going to care about this? And it goes back to ego, where we're constantly looking for that external validation. It doesn't matter so long as you touch that one person, somebody out there that you haven't met before, or maybe you even maybe you have met them and you don't even realize what they're going through, but they're waiting for permission to be heard. And my main purpose in life is to always give a platform where their voice is heard, where your voice gets to be heard. You do have permission to be heard. You have a voice. Let's let you use it. And that's been the prevailing theme as I look back, from that little girl sitting in a room by herself listening to Wolfman Jack and Casey Kasem to today, is you have permission to be heard. You deserve to have your voice be heard. And if I can be an instrument or a tool to help facilitate that, that's the most important gift that I can give someone.
I was about to ask your simple advice. It seems that you have shared this. but it's a great advice to our listeners. You know what, Sheral? It was a lovely discussion with you. I had a wonderful discussion, very fruitful discussion, because a lot of the gems that which I have gathered from this discussion, it's now illuminating, it's now shining, and that's what we need to do. Let our light shine so others may also see that they may be guided in the dark, go towards their destination, and that's their dream. And that's what we need to do, to be that light for others. Before anything else, how can they connect with you so that they'll be able to get in
I'm
touch with you.
I'm easy to find, and thank you again for being such a gracious host, and I'm honored to be here with you. People can find me by you could go to my website, which is speaking with Sher, SHER.com. I'm all over social media, the same thing. You can either find me as Sheral DeVaugh, or you can find me under Speaking with Sher on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. You could even email me, share@speakingwithshare.com. I answer all of my own emails so that you don't end up with a bot or you don't know who you're speaking to. You're speaking to me. I'm pretty easy to find and very accessible. And I'm genuinely interested in hearing your story.
Mhm.
Uh, may I give you and anyone else that's interested a free gift?
Oh, sure, sure, sure. What?
Excellent.
We're all excited with the free gift.
Because you've been so generous and so kind, I felt I should maybe give you something back in return. I'd like to offer
Mm.
you and your friends, whomever, 30-day free membership, no strings attached, to my Engage Your Voice group mastermind. We meet twice a month, about an hour, and we discuss all the things that you might be struggling with. How do I connect to my ideal audience? Why can't I seem to speak the same language as my child? All those, whether it's personal or professional, it's a very safe and intimate space with people from around the globe coming in who have we share the same struggles, and we provide solutions for one another. So if it's something that you find that you struggle with, whether social media, within podcast, what have you, if you want to engage your voice and have permission to have your voice heard, uh, free gift from share.com. And I will give 30 days free, no strings attached. If you want to stick around afterward, you're free to. If you're like, I don't get any value out of this, Sure, I think you're goofy, that's okay too. That's okay too. So
At least that's
but
an
there's,
opportunity for all of us. So
yeah.
that's what I'm telling others. Most of the time, we stay within our comfort zone,
Mhm.
and actually, these opportunities are actually waiting for us. Just go out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
And this is a great opportunity for all the listeners. Oh, and will you be sharing the link for this?
Yeah, absolutely. I will put it in there, but it is free gift from share.com.
Okay, okay, then I will include this.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
Oh
you
my
so
goodness.
much, Cher.
I so appreciate you, Cynthia, very much so. I've enjoyed this, and I hope this is just the first of many conversations you and I have together.
Yes, I'm sure there will be more
I love it.
conversations.
I
Okay,
would enjoy it.
thank you so much again. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for being here. Till our next episode here at Dream to Rise. Thank you and have a blessed day. Thank you, Cher.
Thank you.